They say the devil's in the details, but I've worked in corporate logistics long enough to know that it's usually hiding in the margins, in the quiet shift of a delivery date or the subtle spike in fuel costs. It's not the loud things that get you. It's the patterns. Same applies to marriage. Natalie's patterns started shifting on a random Tuesday. Not a big one. She just said she had dinner with her team at some place called Eddie's, a high-end tapas spot downtown. Claimed they all split the bill, laughed too hard at their own jokes. Then she Ubered home early because corporate bonding gives her a migraine. Except there was a receipt in the dryer, $246.52, 2 entrees, 1 dessert, and a bottle of Silver Oak Cabernet. Unless her intern suddenly started drinking like hedge fund managers, someone was lying. I didn't confront her. I'm not that guy. I've been married to Natalie Carr for 15 years, the kind of woman who color codes her calendar but never forgets a birthday. She drinks oat milk lattes, does yoga on Tuesdays, and kisses my shoulder every time she walks past me while I'm watching the news. We're solid, or we were. Still, I started a list. A mental one at first. But I'm a pen and paper guy. So eventually, I gave it a title. I understand, count. A column for every time she said those 2 words when she didn't mean them. You'd be surprised how fast it added up. Going to be late again tonight, quarterly review chaos. I understand. It's nothing, just a friendly DM from someone at work. I understand. You're reading too much into it, Ethan. I understand. 27 times in 2 days. I counted. Now here's where it gets a little ridiculous. I'm not some bitter, suspicious husband stalking his wife's social media or sniffing her perfume bottles. I noticed because she started shaving on Thursdays. She never did that before. It used to be a Sunday ritual. Then came the new lingerie. Lacy, subtle, expensive. Stuff I hadn't seen before, stuffed in a drawer behind her winter scarves. It wasn't for me, and listen, I'm not an idiot. I've been to enough corporate retreats to know how people act when they're bored and well-fed. But Natalie was different. Or maybe I just thought she was. One night, as we were getting ready for bed, I asked, "What's going on with you lately?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "You've been somewhere else. Not here. Not with me." She sighed like she'd been holding her breath for days. What if, just hypothetically, if someone wanted to step outside the rules for a moment? No lies, no betrayal, just honesty, one time, to remember what it's like to feel wanted. That's when she said it. Just once, Ethan. That's all I'm asking. Like it was a subscription plan. 1 free trial of infidelity, no obligations, cancel any time. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I just stared at her and said, "You want permission to sleep with someone else? I want clarity, honesty, before I start lying." Hell of a pitch. I told her no, because once you break something like that, you can't tape it back together with post-it notes and well-meaning therapy. But I offered her something else. A weekend in Lauderdale at the old lake house we've had since her father passed. Quiet. Peaceful. No cell service unless you climb the dock and stand on one leg. I said, "Let's go there. Just us. Reboot." She nodded, but her face didn't move. Then she asked, "And if I say no?" I shrugged. "Then go spend the weekend at the Waverly with your friend Marcus. I hear their chef does a bone marrow. Creme brulee, that'll change your life." She blinked again. Not confusion. Guilt. Ah, Marcus. The polished silver spoon of her office. The kind of guy who says things like, "Let's circle back," and actually gets away with it. I've met him twice. He has the handshake of a man who moisturizes too often and makes eye contact half a second longer than necessary. Natalie said he listens to her, that he respects her ideas, that he makes her laugh. I respect her ideas too. I just don't interrupt. Mine with overpriced truffle sliders. That night after she fell asleep, I opened her closet and found the suitcase already half packed. swimsuit, heels, silk pajamas, and a new bottle of perfume I hadn't smelled before. Some French name I couldn't pronounce. I sprayed it once on my wrist. It didn't smell like her. It smelled like someone trying to start over. I went back to bed, slid under the covers beside her, and stared at the ceiling for hours. Counting things. Not sheep, not stars. Mistakes. Natalie stood in front of the mirror that Friday morning, fixing an earring she hadn't worn in at least 8 years. Gold hoops, slightly too large for the office, and definitely too bold for someone, trying to blend in. I leaned against the doorway, sipping reheated coffee from the chipped mug she once called a crime against ceramic. "Big day?" I asked casually, like I hadn't already reviewed the calendar she left open on the kitchen counter. She smiled at her reflection. "Just meetings, lunch with Sharon, might be late." "Right. Friday lunches with Sharon," I said, nodding, letting it hang there. No judgment, no accusations. Just a subtle underline. Truth is, I had stopped expecting the truth a few weeks ago. Natalie wasn't lying. Not exactly. She just started leaving out the parts that mattered, like how Marcus's name started showing up in casual conversation, with a frequency usually reserved for Trader Joe's hauls or her sister's latest nervous breakdown. Always tacked on the end of some harmless anecdote. And then Marcus said the coffee there tastes like burnt pencils. He thinks the marketing team's new proposal is garbage, and honestly, he's not wrong. Marcus says I should try Pilates. Says it's life-changing, Marcus says. Marcus thinks. Marcus suggests. At some point, I stopped listening to Marcus and started listening to what Natalie wasn't saying. One night, around 11, I saw her texting on the patio. Not scrolling, not TikTok, just typing, smiling, tucking her hair behind her ear. I opened the sliding door and asked if she wanted tea. She flinched, literally jumped, like I'd caught her whispering secrets to a priest. "No, I'm fine," she said, then added, "Just texting Sharon." I nodded and said nothing. Because sometimes silence is a better spotlight than shouting. The next day, I visited a lawyer. Michael Kessler, old college buddy, now specializes in civil resolution with dignity. His office had the heavy, musty scent of too many private breakdowns contained in a room with bad lighting, walls lined with law degrees and subtle reminders that discretion is expensive. "You sure?" he asked after I told him everything. The hotel receipts, the calendar overlaps, the behavior shifts, the suitcase she thought I hadn't seen. "I'm not filing anything," I said. "I just want the paperwork ready, in case she does." We spent an hour going over assets, inheritance clauses, even custody of the dog we never got around to adopting. By the end, I felt like I was ghostwriting a breakup I didn't believe in yet. Natalie didn't know. I wasn't hiding it out of spite. I just didn't see the point in giving her that power. If she was leaving, let her be the one to walk. I wasn't going to push, but something was shifting. I could feel it in her posture. At work, she'd been snappy. I heard from Brett Lewis, her HR guy and one of our oldest friends. Said she got into it with an intern over a botched presentation. Claimed she was being watched. Even accused a junior associate of stalking her LinkedIn activity. Paranoia wears a certain scent, and Natalie was steeped in it. That night, over takeout Thai, she asked, "Do you ever think we stopped being interesting?" I didn't even blink. "To each other? Or to ourselves?" She didn't answer, just picked at her noodles and said, "Marcus thinks people don't fall out of love, they just get lazy." I raised an eyebrow. Marcus sounds like a guy who's never cleaned up a sick dog at 2 a.m. or sat through a parent-teacher conference about emotional impulsiveness. She cracked a smile, but it didn't stick. I wanted to shake her, honestly. Not out of anger, out of frustration. I wanted her to see what she was doing, to feel the weight of it before it crushed everything. At dinner with her friends the next evening, I wasn't invited, of course. She apparently broke down. Sharon texted me around 9:30. Just 2 words. She's lost. The next morning, Natalie made me breakfast. Eggs, toast, avocado the way I liked it, arranged neatly like she'd watched a food blogger tutorial. She was wearing the sweater I bought her last Christmas. Navy, soft wool with tiny elbow patches. And she hummed while she cooked. It felt staged. Over coffee, she said, "You know, I could have just lied to you." I looked at her. "But you did lie, just not with words." She opened her mouth, then closed it. She knew I was right. "You're not angry?" she asked. "No," I said. "Not yet." And I wasn't. Anger requires clarity. This was still fog. I wasn't chasing a ghost. I was watching someone I love slowly vanish behind one. That afternoon, I remembered something strange. A throwaway detail. Weeks earlier, Natalie had shown me a meme on her phone, something about marriage and vacuuming. I laughed, but I remembered glancing at the top of the screen. The message was from Sharon, but right underneath was another. A preview from someone labeled simply MF. Can't stop thinking about last week. I'd dismissed it then. MF could have been anyone. Now, not so much. I texted Brett. Me. "Waverly Hotel. That's the place with the rooftop fire pits, right?" Brett. "Yeah. And the $200 steak." "Why?" Me. "No reason. Just wondering if Marcus Flynn likes his ribeye rare or medium." Brett didn't respond for an hour. When he did, it was just, "Tell me when." That night, Natalie walked into the room holding her suitcase. "I'm going to see Sharon this weekend," she said. I looked at the bag. "That's a lot of clothes for a girls' night," she shrugged. "I just need space." I nodded. "Take all the space you want." And then I smiled. Calm, polite, the way you do when you're letting someone lie to you for the last time. Friday night, Natalie made pasta. Not the boxed kind. This was the family recipe. Garlic simmered in butter, fresh basil from the windowsill garden, pecorino grated by hand. She even opened the bottle of Amarone I'd been saving for our anniversary and lit a candle we both hated because it smelled like eucalyptus and existential dread. It was, frankly, delicious. She wore that silky green dress I hadn't seen in 2 years. The one with the open back and the neckline that had once gotten us kicked out of a vineyard tasting because I couldn't stop staring. Her hair was curled, makeup subtle but expensive. You could tell by the way her cheekbones caught the candlelight. She looked like the woman I married, except she wasn't cooking for me. We sat across from each other at the dining table. The one I built during lockdown because she said store-bought felt impersonal. The pasta was plated like a magazine cover, and the playlist she picked was chill jazz, the kind you hear in boutique hotels that charge extra for filtered water. Halfway through dinner, she said, "I thought it might be nice, just us. Before the weekend." I chewed slowly, nodded. "You nailed it. Perfect seasoning." She smiled, relieved, like she thought maybe this was working, like the meal was a peace treaty. I raised my glass, toasted quietly, "To truth." She clinked it, and I said, "You look amazing." "Shame it's not for me." She froze. I didn't elaborate. Just wiped my mouth, stood, and took my plate to the sink. Behind me, the candle flickered, and I heard her breathing change, that tight little exhale she does when she's trying not to cry. I didn't turn around. "Ethan," she started. "Have fun," I said, not cold, not cruel, just finished. I left the room, not because I didn't care, but because I cared enough to let the weight fall where it belonged. She left half an hour later, said she was going to talk to Sharon one last time. The way she said it, you could hear the capitalization in her voice. One last time. A dramatic, vague phrase people use when they've already made the decision but still want credit for the internal debate. I didn't stop her. Instead, I sat in the garage with a beer and played Johnny Cash way too loud, not because I was heartbroken. Because the sound of resolve sometimes needs a soundtrack. By midnight, I'd packed a bag for the lake house. Hoodie, jeans, that old flannel she always stole. Threw in a bottle of scotch I'd been saving since we closed on our first house, back when mortgage papers were the scariest thing in our lives. At 5:04 a.m., I woke up. Something was off. Her side of the bed was still empty, cold. No sounds, no messages, just quiet. The kind of silence you only get after someone decides you're no longer their destination. I didn't panic. Just got up, made coffee, loaded the car, and that's when I saw her, sitting in the passenger seat. Head against the window, legs pulled. Up, eyes closed, breathing soft. Like a kid on a road trip who'd fallen asleep before the engine even started. Her suitcase was behind her, next to a small duffel bag with our initials stitched into the side, the one we bought on impulse at a flea market in Vermont. I stood there, key in hand, not sure what to say. Then she opened her eyes and whispered, "I couldn't do it." I didn't move. I packed. I drove halfway there. He texted me the room. Number. I got to the valet stand, and I didn't want him to see me first. She looked away, like the act of admitting that was more intimate than any affair. I came here. I want to go with you. If you still want that. I didn't. Say yes. Not immediately. Just opened the door and got in. She exhaled like someone surfacing from underwater. As we drove, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small black box, the kind lingerie comes in when someone wants it to feel like a secret. She placed it on the dashboard. I was going to wear this, she said. Now I want it to be for us, if you ever want it. Inside was the set I'd seen weeks ago. Black lace, delicate, too bold to be casual. Wrapped around it was a note written in her handwriting. For us. Still possible. Didn't touch the box. Just kept driving. The sun started rising behind us. That deep orange kind of sunrise you only see when you're too tired to appreciate it. The road to Lauderdale was empty, cracked and quiet, like a film set after everyone's gone home. Didn't ask questions. She didn't explain. Eventually she said, "I don't deserve this. You being kind." I replied, "I'm not being kind. I'm being honest." She turned to me. "Then why did you let me back in?" I didn't answer for a long time. Then I said, "Because you came back before it was too late." And for now, that was enough. We didn't talk for the first hour. Just the hum of the tires, and the occasional rattle of an old cooler in the back. Natalie sat with her feet tucked under her, staring out the window like the trees held some kind of answer. I didn't interrupt. Some silences earn their space. Halfway there, she spoke. "Did you ever think about cheating on me?" The question landed like a pebble in still water. Small, but you feel the ripple in your gut. I kept my hands on the wheel. "Yeah," she turned to me, surprised. "Really?" "Seattle. 5 years ago. You were sick, remember?" "I went alone," she nodded slowly. "The logistics conference." "Yep. One of the junior analysts. Melanie. Smart. Funny. Way too enthusiastic about blockchain. She invited me up to her room after drinks." Natalie swallowed hard. "And?" I walked her to her door. We talked about work. Then I told her I was married, thanked her for the conversation, and left. Her voice was small. "Why didn't you tell me back then?" "Because I didn't see it as a win. I just saw it as doing the job, the one I signed up for when I married you." She went quiet. That was the difference between us, I realized. I saw loyalty like a thermostat. You set it once, and it adjusts to the temperature, but you don't keep fiddling with it. Natalie had started playing with the settings, trying to see what else the system could handle. We got to the lake house just before noon, still smelled like cedar and last summer's mosquito spray. The dock was a little warped, The water was low, but it was ours. Natalie unpacked while I lit the fire pit. I noticed she left her phone on the counter, screen down. That was new. She didn't check it once. Later, we sat by the fire in silence, the kind that doesn't demand filling, just breathing. Cracking wood, the occasional clink of ice in a glass. She handed me a paper bag. Brown, crumpled, unassuming. "What's this?" I asked. "Something we forgot how to do." Inside were 2 croissants from that bakery she used to drag me to. The one with the overpriced pastries and baristas that looked like backup dancers from a Lana Del Rey video. There was a small bottle of champagne, 2 plastic flutes, and a folded napkin. Written in black Sharpie were the words, "Let it be like the first time, only forever." I didn't say anything, just smiled. Small, real. That night we didn't talk about Marcus, or what almost happened, or how close she came to disappearing from my life without ever really leaving. We sat under a wool blanket drinking warm champagne and laughing about the time we got snowed in at O'Hare and survived, on airport pretzels and watching strangers argue over gate changes. It wasn't romantic. It was human. And that felt better. The next morning, we made breakfast together. No makeup, no show, just eggs and burnt toast and a shared playlist that skipped halfway through every other song. It felt stupidly perfect. Then came Monday. Natalie went back to work. I did too. No declarations, no resets. Just a quiet return to the familiar with a slightly different weight to everything. 3 days later, Marcus Flynn was fired. Apparently a video surfaced. Company retreat, too much tequila, too little professionalism. Some HR complaint about inappropriate comments and lingering touches. Brett called me after. "You hear about Marcus?" "Little Bird told me," I said. Brett laughed. "That Bird was an intern. She was smart enough to record everything. Legal's handling it." I sipped my coffee. "So he's out?" "Done. Terminated this morning. I personally escorted him out." I paused. "Did you say anything?" He hesitated. Then, with perfect Brett timing, said, "Yeah, I told him. You overestimated her interest in you. She wasn't falling for you. She was just trying to remember who she was." I smiled. "You didn't. Word for word." "Damn," I said. "You're colder than me." "Someone's got to be." Before he hung up, he added one last line. He looked confused, like he thought it was real. It wasn't. Later that night, Natalie walked into the living room carrying 2 mugs of tea, peppermint for her, Earl Grey for me. She curled up next to me on the couch, looked me in the eye, and said, "I was wrong. I didn't ask what she meant." She kept going. "About everything. About what matters. About who I am when I'm scared." I nodded. "You were lost." "I still might be." "That's fine," I said, "as long as you're lost with me." She laughed, but it came with tears, not the dramatic kind. The kind you cry when you realize you got lucky and might still deserve to keep it. We didn't fix everything. That's not how this works. But we started walking again. Same direction, same pace. Sometimes that's all it takes. Epilogue. Marcus didn't leave quietly, tried to threaten legal action, claimed emotional manipulation, said the intern seduced him. Classic move. Spin the narrative until you start believing it yourself. But the truth? It wasn't about the intern. It was about Natalie never choosing him. He mistook curiosity for love, flattery for connection, escape for passion. Brett said it best, cold and clean. Next time, don't confuse curiosity with love. That line stuck with me. People get bored. People wander. People forget the difference between new and meaningful. But if you're lucky, if you're really damn lucky, someone turns around before it's too late. And when they do, you either slam the door shut or you leave it cracked just wide enough for a second chance to walk through.